Good evening, students. This is the beginning of week 4. By the end of this week, we will be halfway through your first course. So I hope you all feel good about your work so far. I've had a lot of emails today about the submission of the group project and the fact that it doesn't look like it's been submitted, but the ones that I've checked on have been. I think they're all in. The process for grading these is a little bit different than it normally is on Grade Center. So I have to go in and grade them and make sure that that's showing up for you, but they should be fine. If you did not share your document with me and it's a Google Doc, please make sure that you have gone in and shared that. As I said in last week's video, you need to mark under Google Docs, share, anyone with a link can view. If you put in there anyone at Concordia can view, it goes out to all of the instructors, but it doesn't necessarily make it accessible for each of you. So don't use that tab. Just hit anyone with a link can view. Okay, so week 4, I want to start with the assignment because this is the beginning of the backwards design or understanding by design template for your unit of study that you're going to be creating for your final project for this course. And this first week, your job is to submit essential questions around your unit of study. This is really a crucial week. I'll be posting probably on Tuesday a PowerPoint, another narrated PowerPoint going through each section of this process so that you can see the overview. Some of you, I know from your beginning introductions, have done this process before. I'm very familiar with it because we used this process in our district for a couple of years while we were waiting for new curriculum. So it's a little bit tricky. We used to use the book Understanding by Design for the course for this class. So I've taught this many times. And what you're going to begin with this week are 3 to 5 essential questions around a unit of study. So when we talk about a unit of study, this can be anything from a week to a month. I wouldn't make it bigger than that because you are going to be required to list all of the lessons and the assessments in the next 2 sections of this template. So if it gets too big, it gets very lengthy for you and a little unwieldy to deal with. So I would keep it fairly short, but it needs to be long enough to be interesting and meaningful to the students. And I'm going to challenge you to think a little differently about your instruction as you work on this project. Some of you will submit units that you've written before. When that happens, it gets messy for some students because if you're not familiar with this process, it's a little bit different. You have to think differently about your instruction because it is a backwards design. And by that we mean that you establish your essential questions first in stage 1, and then in stage 3 you design your assessments for this, and then in stage 2 you design your assessments, and then lastly in stage 3 you plan your instruction. The way that Concordia has structured this, they asked for the assessment piece in the last week, but I'm going to take you through this a little bit differently so that it makes sense. You'll still follow the assignments, but I'm going to give you the big picture so that the term backwards design is going to make better sense to you. So by Tuesday, I'll have that narrated PowerPoint up to give you the whole picture. But this week, I want you to first go to the website that is listed on Blackboard, and I think it's called What is an Essential Question? It's an article by the two authors that wrote the book Understanding, excuse me, Understanding by Design, Jay McTighe and Grant Wiggins. And it talks about what is an essential question, and that is really key to this process. An essential question is a big question that's not answered by yes or no, and it has no right or wrong answers. So when you go through that process of reading their article, it gives you some examples in there, and then it also has a short quiz close to the beginning of the article. Then you read through and it gives you the answers to that quiz. So I would definitely go through and take that little quiz. It's not very long, like 6 or 7 questions. And they give you lots of examples in that article. It might be worth printing out and keeping with you as you go through this process. If any of you have adopted McGraw-Hill as one of the new ELA curriculum, you will see that they give essential questions each week for the language arts focus for the week. And essential questions can be big no matter if you're teaching kinder or if you're teaching high school AP classes. So a few examples that I pulled out of there are things like, what keeps our world working? How do friends depend on each other? Where do good ideas come from? How do your actions affect others? How do traditions connect people? So all of those are examples of questions that have no right or wrong answer and can't be answered by yes or no. But they're questions that encourage some inquiry and some interest, and they're questions that are worth answering. So sometimes those questions might be asked in a primary classroom, and you're going to hear them addressed again in middle school or high school. You might even have conversations around those questions as adults, and that's what makes them essential questions, is they have they're enduring. They are valuable over time. So they're not questions that are text-dependent questions. So take some time, think about those, and in order to be successful with this project, those questions need to be strong. So I would recommend that you submit your questions to me, either text or email, before you submit them, to make sure that before I grade those, that you have strong questions that are going to lead you into a strong unit that you're going to be developing. So that's your assignment for this week, is 3 to 5 questions. I would seriously limit it to about 3. When you get to 5 questions, it gets kind of unruly and a little too big. The other assignment that you have this week is a discussion board. You're reading in your text, I think it's chapter 7, and you are asked this question: why do I need to know about curriculum frameworks to which I do not subscribe, or even to which I might disagree? So it's asking you to provide a well-supported response that would encourage educators to research and understand a variety of modern and postmodern curriculum frameworks, and how this can strengthen your personal philosophy of curriculum design. So it's really asking you to engage in a growth mindset as you look at some of these ideas and really dig deeply into your own philosophy as to whether or not you agree or disagree with them. You're going to find some pages in the chapter that will help you summarize these ideas. On page 183 is the Curriculum Design Theoretical Frameworks, Modern and Postmodern Perspectives. So take a look at that. Then there's also a chart on page 185 that's an overview or review of the major curriculum designs that are currently in use. And on page 159, towards the beginning of the chapter, Egan talks about 3 purposes that allow us to know about curriculum foundations from the philosophical, historical, social, and psychological realms. So looking at the idea of socialization, do we address the needs we currently experience or look to the possibilities of the future? He asks the question, what knowledge is worth knowing, and how do we select and organize it? And then he looks at the developmental stages and how students process knowledge. How do we differentiate for our students to make sure that they're able to do that? So those are a few of the things I want you to be thinking about this week as you respond to that discussion board entry. I'm also going to post online for you a link to the California frameworks. We have frameworks for every area of study. There's always 1 or 2 areas that are under revision. I believe the new science and GSS frameworks are out now. I think I saw that on the website. And I'm going to give you a link to the California content standards where you can get updates on what's happening. Because while this class does not ask you to do work around the California content standards and our California standards website, it's something I want you all to know about and to see what's there. So I would encourage you to go into the link that I'm going to post so that you can be familiar with the frameworks, at least in your own particular area of teaching. So I'm going to leave you with that. I will get that other PowerPoint posted later this week. As I said, again, I think probably by Tuesday should be okay. And then please try and submit your questions to me before you post them so that I can give you feedback on that. Okay, so any questions or concerns you have during the week, please be sure and email me or text me, and I'm happy to get back to you as soon as I can. Have a great week, and I will see you all next week.